Welcome back, everyone, to the Rubberducking podcast.
That's right. It's been a while. I
Yeah,
mean,
been a
like
second.
for the audience, it probably wouldn't be that long because we haven't actually. I mean, they wouldn't know that we haven't filmed in a while, right?
Well,
Is that-
unless you're following
That's true.
eagerly a
that's-
new episode, in which case, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything. And yeah, since we talk a lot about my story for the past like 33 episodes, 34 episodes, and I hope to bring in much more of like my life story into the comparison, right? Whenever I'm making comparison or whenever I'm sharing something, like it will always be like my personal experience. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about moving away from my story, but also moving into kind of like the problematic things that are around and in North Korea, right? And one of the topic that like and as my loyal followers might know, I actually go on the street, right? I actually go on the street and I do like hold a sign that says like, "Hey, ask me any questions." Basically, I force them to ask me a question and
Forced. Very North Korean of you.
right. Well, I mean, not forced, but I
Right.
mean, like, you know what I mean, like,
Right,
basically
you do
holding up a
ask a
sign.
North Korean. You
Right, ask a North
engage with
Korean.
your, I guess not necessarily audience, but public.
That's right. Yeah. And one of I guess like one of the common questions that I get, and also like I wish more people ask me about it, is like, oh, like you can travel within North Korea, and also like should people travel to North Korea?
I
Right? So
see.
those kind of questions that I kind of wanted to like clarify on I guess on the podcast. So recently, North Korea opened up the border, 2025, and accepted tourists into North Korea.
Oh, okay. So
Or-
that was not a thing for the past couple of years?
That's right.
tourism?
Yeah,
Okay.
starting COVID, right?
I
Because
see,
of COVID,
I
they
see.
closed it up, and I think they closed it like back in 2020, and they opened it up in the first 5 years, and then they accepted tourists for I think 2 weeks, and then they closed it back up,
Do you know why?
and that's what I want to get into today.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So what do you think? Just Mike, what do you think people like? I just wanted to ask you this. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think people will gain out of going to North Korea? I just want to get your opinion.
Oh, I see. Well, for me, it's pretty obvious. It's such a unique experience. You can't get anywhere else. The Hermit Kingdom.
That's
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, especially for people who have traveled a bunch
Yeah.
and seen, I don't want to say all, but a lot there is out there to see. They want something different, right? Something that you can't really get anywhere else. Something more exclusive.
Yeah.
And North Korea has just that.
Right. It's so mysterious.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can just go there any day,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, and they do like a thorough background research on you. Okay, so here is my take on it, right? So I'm from North Korea, right? And I can
Yes.
tell you that like whatever you see, right, when you go to North Korea, just right off the bat, I just wanted to make sure that you know that you're not getting the authentic, like the experience that
I
you
see.
thought you're gonna get.
So it's not from the perspective of the everyday citizens.
No.
Right.
no.
So that's what's different from going to, say, I don't know, France, where you
That's
can,
right.
you
Yeah,
know,
like
blend
you
in
get
if
to
you
see
could,
like
yeah.
the regular day-to-day life, what's happening in that country, but in
I
North
see.
Korea. So best way that I can actually explain is: have you
Uh-huh.
ever seen a movie called The Truman Show?
Oh, yes.
Right?
I have seen
yeah,
that.
So
Yeah, it's a
Truman
great,
Show,
great
where
movie.
Jim Carrey, right? He's a great actor, by the way. And Jim Carrey's life is being documented in, and then the people comes along and they just act, and there's like whole stage. Going to North Korea is very similar to that. Tourists as the Truman.
Right.
And North Korea as the cast. And I just wanted to mention that again, that before you visit North Korea, right? So there are people who has been trained months on end for your arrival.
Wow.
And actually you have to act certain way, right? You have to like and there it is actually on YouTube. I recently watched this video and that actually made me really, in a way, mad.
Okay. Well, please tell us more. What made you mad?
So there are two reasons for it.
Uh-huh.
A, you're visiting North Korea and you think it's like an interactive, like a museum, where you can just go see.
Uh-huh.
And then, you're just like, whoa, mind blown away,
Uh-huh.
And I don't like that, right? Well, I'm not trying to gatekeep, right? You can go into North Korea as much as you want, but you filming and coming out and oh, look what kind of things that I brought out from North Korea, saying like, oh, this is like really cool piece of art. Wow, look at that. It's like so like 60s style.
Uh-huh.
It's like people think that going into North Korea, it's like a interactive museum where you can just go in and...
Oh, so they treat it like a... Am I getting right? They're treating it like a novelty instead of like its own culture? Like, is that what's bothering you? Okay.
Yeah. And also that you're supporting the North Korean regime.
Right. That's probably the bigger...
because, I mean, that's like the biggest. Like, you're paying money to go to North Korea and you're paying money to the North Korean regime, which they're trying to make money, and you're just doing that, and you're just paying for that money, right?
Right.
And another pet peeve, I guess, is that people are in North Korea, right? People are trained and they've been practicing and like speaking English, and say certain things, and like they have like a daily routine to make sure to fool you, right? And there is no matter how much you practice or no matter how much you try to perfect these kind of like acts, like there's always certain things that gonna mess up, right? I mean, there's like you let's say that you filmed certain things that you're not supposed to film, right? And then North Korean government actually checks everything before you leave North Korea, right? From the camera rolls.
Oh,
they go through your camera rolls and they delete. They ask you to delete these things. Like if they don't like it, they would ask you to delete. But some things like slips out of your mind, and some things like they may not thoroughly like check. Right?
Yeah.
And you come out of North Korea and you post that on the internet, right? And for example, on this YouTube I was watching, this guy was asking questions to the tour guide. It's like, oh, how is COVID in North Korea?
Yeah.
And I can see the tour guide was visibly getting upset.
Oh, interesting.
Like more than upset, he was getting scared. Like he's getting scared to answer, right? And he's like, oh, don't film. Right? And then this guy like comes out and says, oh yeah, so right after he told me to stop filming, he told me that the COVID was bad in North Korea.
Ooh.
Right?
Okay.
He posted on YouTube.
Oh, I see. So is that, and I can imagine that potentially jeopardizing not only the job but safety of that tour guide potentially?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the reason why North Korea is like opening it up and closing it back up is because people who go into North Korea film all this kind of things and comes out, post about it, and like, oh, look at this, and look at these kind of things that are happening in North Korea, right? And North Korea is like, oh, what? And they close it back up. So, yeah, those are the things that I wanted to bring up to people's attention. Like, yeah, so when you go into North Korea, you're not going to get the full authentic Korean culture experience that you had in South Korea, right? Like, if you're gonna go to North Korea, please know that A, you're supporting the oppressive North Korean regime, and B, by filming all these things on the streets, right, and filming like whatever you're trying to film, and bring that out and posting it on YouTube, that jeopardizes not just the tour guide, but tour guide's family too, right?
Their children, their parents.
Exactly, yeah. And if you do something as a tour guide, if you do something wrong, that's like a big thing.
A lot on the stakes there.
Right, exactly.
Because you're supposed to be representing the regime. And you
representing the regime, and then you're kind of messing it up, and and that's gonna be big on the tour guide. And then third reason is that like this one is more like a milder side, like on the milder side, where you
Uh-huh.
go into North Korea and you bring all these souvenirs out. Where
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's like, it's like you bring stickers out, postcards. Oh hey, like subscribe on my comment and I'll send you this postcard of
Uh-huh.
like North Korean regime trying to destroy America. Like
Uh-huh.
it's the
Uh-huh.
pictures of that.
Yeah.
And are you really like endorsing that kind of like what I mean? Like, are you
Like
like,
propaganda material?
yeah, propaganda material?
I
Like,
mean, they're not, right? It's just novel. It's strange and funny to them. So I don't think the intention is to spread it.
mm,
But I can see how it may be misrepresented as such.
exact. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm like. The misrepresentation of that
Uh-huh.
is I'm not okay with. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, if it was like okay, 민속놀이, you know what 민속놀이, right? It's
Yeah,
like
right.
okay, so if it's
Traditional
like
games or
yeah, it's like if you're
plays.
representing the North Korean culture itself,
Uh-huh.
like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like that's great too. Like that's amazing. I really want you to continue to do that. Like go into North Korea, represent North Korean culture.
But that's because it's such a sterile environment. You're fed very curated information while you're in North Korea. It doesn't seem that it's possible that one going into North Korea as a foreign national going for tourism can come out really understanding what kind of cultures there is to even represent to begin with. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like the point that I'm trying to make is like don't go to North Korea. Like go when North Korean like North Korea
It's
falls.
free.
I
Free
guess.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one more thing I want to kind of perhaps clarify for our listeners, and you can talk about this, is some people who are not really aware of these oppressive regimes might think that, well, if you go spend money in South Korea or in Europe, like you're helping those governments too, right? Paying whatever little amount of taxes and fees. So like, it's not unheard of, right? That people benefit the government or those in power when you go visit those areas or countries. How is it any different from North Korea? How would you answer that?
Oh man, yeah. Um, First of all, North Korean people wouldn't benefit from that like earned money. What you are supporting is North Korean regime and North Korean regime trying to make weapons to defend themselves from evil evil Americans,
Right.
basically. So I mean, the key difference is that North Korean people don't get those kind of benefits from you paying money to go visit North Korea. You're directly paying North Korean regime, and they're corrupt, right? North Korean regime is corrupt. Therefore, even like so here's the thing too. Like back in 2008 or 9, there was a flood happened in North Korea, and there's a book about it too. Actually, North Korea submitted a natural disaster kind of like an aid to United Nations, and United Nations actually helped North Korean government because these are natural disasters and we do need to help them because like people
just humanitarian,
right, humanitarian aid.
aid.
And you're supposed to give that to the people,
Yeah,
but North Korean government just
didn't.
swooped in and just took everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what do you think North Korea when they take all that, what do they do with it?
military. And also like the top 1%, their luxurious life.
I see.
Right. It's all going to that luxurious life of Kim Jong Un's like another private collection and and lavish life that those top 1% people lives, right? And also like the build like North Korea do try to make like Pyongyang looks like amazing on the picture, right? It's like
as best as they can,
as best as they can, and then they use that kind of money to try to do that as
see.
well. Yeah.
And some people might question like, well, Charles, like you've never been in power, you don't know what happens when people get those humanitarian aids. But I know that's something that you brought up in our previous episodes to justify like how you know that those are not getting to the people is that, you live there, right?
Yeah,
and you were in situations where you could have used those, aids, whether that's food or clothing, rice, what have you. And I remember you mentioning that you just did not I mean, have you ever seen any material? Because usually when those things come in, for example, when South Korea sends bags of rice,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They are all stamped with South Korean government
대한민국.
marks. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the
Yep.
UN, they also brand their
Yeah.
things.
UN,
So
yeah.
like, have you seen any of that around?
I actually have seen that. Yeah,
You
it's
have?
in a yellow
Okay.
bag, and then
Uh-huh.
also there is like a 대한민국 like wordings, but the
Oh,
military
okay.
tried to like.
Oh, they try to scrub it out.
Yeah, but I mean like it's a made. It's called made.
Right,
It's
right,
like
right.
It's like a. Like, I think it's like a
potato
70 kilogram.
sack.
Yeah, potato 70
Yeah.
kilograms potato sack, and
Uh-huh.
then it's like with a yellow bag, green letter UN. I've seen that like all around.
Okay.
But interestingly enough, I've seen military carries that all the time.
Military carries that stuff all
Yeah,
the time?
yeah.
Okay.
Military carries that bag, right?
Oh.
And the reason why is because the food is going directly to the military,
Oh, okay.
right? And
Wow.
also, so when you send aid to North Korea, like
Mhm.
rice, for example, like from South Korea, it goes to Pyongyang, right? And it goes to Kanbu's first,
I see.
right? Kanbu's house, and
The
then
high-ranking officials.
higher-ranking officials, and then it goes to the military,
I see.
right? And it goes to the military, and then that's supposed to feed the military,
Mm-hmm.
but the military steals that,
Uh-huh.
right? And like a military steals that, and then they sell it to the black market in a like a exaggerated like a market price. And that's where I've
they
seen
extort their own people.
Right, right,
With the humanitarian aid that they got for free.
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah. So
wow.
yeah, so that's what I mean by like when you send aid to North Korea, like you're like I haven't seen like I have seen it. I have seen like bags of like it says 대한민국, right? So it's South Korea.
But as far as the bags that you've had, contacts with, there was nothing in there for you.
Mm-mm. It's more of like, that means something, but that represents money.
Oh.
Like people carry that because they're selling something or they're buying something.
Okay.
Yeah. So
interesting.
yeah. So it's as simple, but it's very complicated. Because North Korean government is corrupt, right? They're not giving anything to people.
Right, and it's
When
not
they're
like the Kim
supposed to.
Jong-un or like when those things happen, those high-ranking officials need that themselves, right? It's just to fund the military and make their lives a little more lavish. Because you would think that if those aids arrived during the time of a big natural disaster, surely you would see the common people seeing, bags full of rice or water or whatever being delivered to them. But it seems that from commoners' perspective, it's just not something that happens.
Yeah. I think it all comes from like the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
all
that
comes
makes
from
sense.
corruption, and I remember like South Korean government, or not South Korean government, South Korean like humanitarian organizations. They used to have balloons like sent over to North Korea, right? With, like rice and like some of like a piras too, and they put like a rice in a bottle, and they put it in the water, like was it Tumangang? I think like what's the gang? Not Tumangang.
Yalu?
No. It's like from South Korea. There's a river in South
Oh,
Korea.
I don't know.
Hangang? No. And then it eventually meets like the North Korean kind of like a
It does.
seashore.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be Han River, but I'm not sure.
It could be
Yeah,
Han River.
yeah.
But there
I
are,
don't think
yeah.
it is.
I'll actually get back to you guys on that actually, because
I'm bad at geography, especially Korean geography. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I don't know how I escaped North Korea because I just don't know where things are. Where I was going with this. Yeah. So
People try to send aids, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like without like North Korean like governments. Like,
right. So sidestep the government altogether.
Right.
Float it in the river, what have you.
And have people eat it. Right. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the right way to go.
Right.
And a lot of people actually have seen those. And
Mhm.
even if you ask any North Korean defectors in South Korea, like, have you ever seen these kind of things? They will say yes, because they have.
They have.
But the problem is that when you find those, right, in a balloon or from river or from the sea,
Yeah.
North Korean government tells you that, okay, so those kind of things have been poisoned, like those rice and those cookies and those food, and there's like some kind of like everyday use, like a toothbrush, and everything has been poisoned. So if you were to touch that, you're gonna die.
And do people actually believe and follow that? Oh, they do?
So
wow.
once they find those,
Uh-huh.
they take that and they give it to the regime, right? Give it to the local police department.
So that it can be handled safely,
handle
discarded safely,
safely,
quote
right?
unquote.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, quote unquote,
wow.
handle safely,
Okay.
and then it is consumed by
Consumed
those.
by the police.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it happened quite often in North Korea. It
Wow.
happened quite often,
Have you seen
especially.
it?
I have not seen
Uh
it,
huh.
but there's a lot of like our neighbors, right?
Uh
And we
huh.
have like a Inminbanhui, right? So we have once a
Mm.
week, like we have this kind of like a our people like gatherings,
Uh
and then
huh.
we gather around, and then we supposed to like talk about like the what happened during the week in our
Uh huh.
like
Interesting.
in our people's neighborhood,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and in those meetings, like it would get brought up like every single meeting. It's like,
Wow.
oh yeah, so we have found these, and
Uh huh.
like this
Oh.
like mobomseng, this kind of mobom like neighborhoods, they found it and they reported it, and that's
So
why
these
like we are
exemplary
safe now.
people are
Yeah,
keeping the neighborhood safe by removing all these South Korean garbage
that's right.
and
That's
and poison away from our neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
and and it happened, for the past like I would say 20 years. It happened like keep happening, right?
Uh
When
huh.
even like Kim Jong Il was alive,
Uh huh.
and in response to that, North Korea actually sent right the trash
The trash
balloons
balloons. Okay. Uh huh.
to South Korea,
Yeah.
and it was quite the comical,
Right. It
right?
seemed incredibly petty.
Sending poop balloons
Right.
to South Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think visiting North Korea, like I do want to say, like I'm not really happy, about
Mm-hmm.
people visiting North Korea, let alone just trying to, I guess, promote North Korean regime I guess in a good way, because like
Does anyone do that actually?
I would, I would,
I
I
hope
would
not.
personally,
But
well, I would personally believe that you're going into North Korea and you're buying North Korean propaganda
uh huh.
and bring that out, and that's just like talking about it as like a funnily, oh, look at this piece of
Uh
art, and
huh.
look at these, like, oh, I've never seen this kind of
Uh
things
huh.
before, like that is basically, how is that different? Like, how is that different than like, oh, it's like how is it different, like you supporting North Korean regime, like how is that different?
Mm.
Like you promoting North Korean regime like in a good
Mm.
way. How is it different?
Mm.
Right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah, I mean, I guess the North Korean regime tries to make sure that the people who are visiting don't necessarily think about that. That's what they may be doing, right? They want the regime wants the tourist to think that it's just visiting any other country. But at the end of the day, really the crux of the issue then is that it if North Korea was like any other government, it's not a huge deal that you visit, go on, tourism packages or whatever. That's totally fine. But because what North Korea is doing is, like you said in the previous episodes, like a cartel, they're oppressing the people, they're causing a lot of pain and death and suffering. So anything that could, help their agenda along, whether you know it or not, you want to discourage it.
that's right.
You want to
Yeah.
discourage people from doing it.
Right, right, right. Yeah. I mean, so let's say that if it was like, okay, so purpose of strengthening like South Korea and North Korea's relationship,
Uh-huh.
right? And then we're allowing like students from South Korean students back into North Korea, right? Like I would encourage that, because that's kind of like strengthening the relationship between the
That's
South
true.
and the North.
Right.
Right.
I was one such student who got to visit North Korea. Actually,
ex-
actually, I should talk about that. All right. I should come clean, Charles.
Yes.
I've been to North Korea. So this was back in the mid 2000s when the mood between North and South was quite amicable. So the two leaders, I think that was still Kim Jong Il, and I think it was, I believe, I actually don't remember who the president would have been at the time. I want to say
that-
Kim Dae-jung,
Yeah.
potentially.
So like a sunshine policy.
Yeah, Sunshine Policy, where South Korea was investing a lot
Kim
into
Dae-jung,
North Korea in terms of the tourism infrastructure, like places for people to stay, resort infrastructure, as well as Gyeonggongdan, which is the factory. Again, I saw it as a win-win where the North Korea gets to have a little bit of an income, right? And South Korea gets to have North Korea's cheap labor,
Mm-hmm.
those are all in the north and south border. So I actually got to go to North Korea from on land. Like I got on a bus and we went to North Korea. I do remember like crossing the border. I don't remember if the military uniform people came on the bus, but maybe they were a little dressed a little nicely at the time, potentially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But
I don't think it would have been like a full on like military uniform
yeah,
and guns.
I do
It's
remember
more of like a people.
like them checking it for passport. I think they checked passport. I also remember there was a girl in the class who was going on that trip with us who was a dual citizen of U.S. and South Korea.
Wow.
She actually got kicked off the bus.
Oh,
She had
because
to go
she's
back.
a U.S. citizen.
She was a U.S. citizen. She was not allowed into North Korea.
Oh wow.
And then we went in, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful country. But I could tell that as soon as we crossed the border, it was like very rural, right?
Yeah.
And I could see people in the distance. I didn't wave or anything, but I just have vague memory of as we were on the road. I mean, they didn't ask us to draw the curtain or anything, but I could still see that the infrastructure of the road, the fact that North Korea still had like wooden the telephone poles, which again is common in the United States, but the South Korea, they've all replaced that to concrete ones a long while ago. The condition of the street, the people are like working farmland,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, not industrialized, like a clean kind of a farmland that I used to see. No greenhouses, things like that. But after the transport, we were just at a resort.
Kumgangsan, right?
Yeah,
The
that's
Mount
right.
Kumgang.
Yeah, the Mount Kumgang.
Yeah.
Again, beautiful mountain. The only thing that really was different, well, to two things, is it was really clean, not very populated at all. Like,
Right. Underdeveloped. It's very clean.
so it's just
Water,
nature.
Yep,
It's just nature.
Yep.
I could drink the water from the stream. It's so clean.
Yep.
And the giant rocks, like imagine things like the Half Dome of Yosemite. Right? They have bright red carvings praising the Kim regime
That's
carved
right.
into them. There are special spots where there are monuments where the Kim regime had visited. Again, the red carvings of like, oh, our great leader blessed us with his presence on this day. Those things.
Yeah.
so
Well,
it's
I mean, like it's not so. Well, now I think about it, it's not so different than Mount Rushmore, isn't it? Sorry.
yeah,
No,
right.
but-
Yeah, that's right.
But
You
I
know
mean,
what?
like, no, I mean that's. I mean, it's like the fundamentals, like different meaning of that is different.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So I think that I like to think that probably was, well, yeah. You know what? That probably also helped North Korea strengthen their military at the end of the day, and it's not like that went to the people in any way, right? The whatever sunshine policy that.
No, but here's the
went
thing
in
too.
there.
Like the people who actually got to work in the Gasangundan,
yeah.
like they got paid a lot, and they
right,
actually,
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and actually I do remember like those kind of, like I do remember seeing Imangap one time, like in Imangap where
So that's a
one
South
pers-
Korean, right? A
That's
TV
right.
program that invites a lot of North Korean defectors and
Mhm.
some South Korean commentators, and they just tell the stories of the North Korean defectors, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but now it's got some bad reviews. Yeah, it's gotten a lot of bad reviews because it's
Yeah?
like they're trying to like
Bias?
use
Oh.
like it's more of like a male gaze, more than like
So it's a South Korean propaganda. Is that what it
South
is,
Korean
or,
propaganda. No, like
or is it more like, kind of, like we're treating the North Korean defectors more again like a novelty.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, or to feel better about the South Korean life, or what is it? I guess you should explain a little bit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gotten a lot of like, instead of inviting a lot of like male. Well, I mean, there's like so the
Oh, was it
the
literally male gaze? Like,
literally male gaze. Yeah.
Oh,
the
like
criticism of the
uh-huh.
show was that okay, there are just so many women in a short skirt and just like shooting camera in a
we were
such
literally
a weird
just fetishizing
angle.
the North Korean
Yeah,
ladies.
and then like
Okay.
there's no males whatsoever in the
Yes,
show,
okay.
right? And then you just keep having like the woman's talk and things like that. So that was the
Oh.
criticism
Oh, I see. Okay.
by South Korean like other medias.
I thought you meant male gaze as like a figurative, like
No, no,
fetishizing something, but it was literally just
It was
like
literally
fetishizing the
yeah,
woman from the North.
yeah,
Okay,
that.
gotcha.
And I get that, but also at the same time, North Korean, in fact, there are significantly more more women than
okay.
male because
Right.
men has to serve in the military for
That's right.
12 years, and they don't get the opportunity to escape
As much. I
as
see.
much. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I've seen that show, and one of the women who was talking in the show, she
Uh-huh.
used to work at Kaesongongdan, right, back in the days,
Uh-huh.
and they were treated really fairly. Like they actually talked about eating choco pie as well as a South Korean like a
Oh,
snack.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And she was
They
talking
sell it
about
here
eating
too in the
that.
United States. Choco pie.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Look
and
it up.
I have a bag sorry, not bag, a box
Oh, you do?
at home. Yeah, I love
Nice.
choco pie. Yeah. So like yes, like visiting, like between South Korea and North Korea, right? And like we're supposed to be one country, right? We're supposed to be like a brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Right.
we're taught. Like at least in North, that's what we're taught.
Uh-huh.
And we as a North have to go into South Korea and liberate you guys,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and also like
Sure.
South Korea is really poor and whatnot, but no,
Uh-huh.
that's not true. But like in terms of like strengthening relationships and that I encourage, but I mean like I don't think that's ever gonna happen again because Kim Jong Un just destroyed everything.
They literally blew up a building.
Yeah, and then there's like the peace sign. I think it was like the two women holding up the like the what's that called? Like a 통일 전통. I think it's like a reunification symbol. Like two
Oh, I
women
don't
holding
know.
like
Yeah.
that's a really big thing in North Korea. It's like it was on the
Really?
TV. It was on TV like every single
Where
day.
is that? Is that like
It's
a
in
monument?
Pyongyang. It's a
Oh,
big
it's in Pyongyang. Oh, it's a
monument.
whole
People can actually
monument.
drive through it.
Oh,
It's a really
dang.
big,
Okay.
yeah, and they just blew that up. Yeah,
Oh,
and
they just blew it up?
yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
that I did not know.
it's not a recent thing. It happened like maybe like 2 to 3 months
So
ago.
if they're really doubling down on like, no, we're gonna be our own country now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So,
and
so South Korea's just an adversary.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh. Wow.
yeah, and especially with that in mind,
Uh-huh.
right? And you're going to North Korea, I really
Mm.
want you to consider it twice because of those kind of things. Like you're supporting North Korean regime, and you know, I know I'm coming off of us like very like oh, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like aggressive. When you are, it's like what's the harm in it? You know, like visiting North Korea and bringing those kind of stuff out. What I'm saying is like it's the media coverage that North Korean government get. Right, North Korean people aren't getting enough of media coverage as it is, and a lot of times when North Korean defectors do go on the internet and share their stories, like there are a lot of like North Korean agents that are trying to discredit North Korean people, so that like North Korean, I don't maybe it's like North Korean agents are placed in different parts of the internet,
I'm sure they are. Yeah.
and kind
Uh-huh.
of like discrediting, but like North Korean people should be the face of North Korea instead of like North Korean regime
I
being the
see.
face of North Korea. And when you have like this big platform, right, like such as like YouTube, and where millions of people watching your broadcast, right, and that's like when you come in and say, oh yeah, North Korea wasn't that bad. Like, well, look at this cool arts that I brought back from North Korea,
I see.
right? And you don't realize it now, and you don't like realize it like saying, oh yeah, North Korea like is bad, but by you doing that, you're basically humanizing North Korean regime, right? And I personally don't want to, because I mean like that's not what North Korean regime is doing to its people. They're not humanizing North Korean people, right? But you are humanizing North Korean regime. So that's the thing that I don't like.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Especially, if you have the influence to potentially educate a large audience, if you have, millions of subscribers, for example,
Right. Yeah.
then you gotta think about how to be responsible. Same reason that even if a giant cartel someplace offered hey, we'll show you a tour of our compound, pay this amount of money, we'll keep you safe, and we'll make you have a good time. I mean, you probably think twice about that. Right? Like, what are they doing with that money? Not a lot of good stuff. So, the same reason then, right, North Korea, because, like, again, you talked about it, it is a cartel, right?
I mean,
and doing a lot
yeah,
of
the
different things.
drug dealings, weapon tradings, like North Korean embassies are the place for it,
Right.
and that's where the human trafficking happens. That's where drug trafficking happens, weapon trading happens. So it's like basically a gigantic cartel.
Anytime there is a chance that your hard-earned money can go to the North Korean cartel just think twice
Mhm.
about it, and if possible, don't do it at all.
Yes, that's hopefully my message, and I really
Okay.
hope that sticks with people. But at the end of the day, I mean, you are an adult, and I think one thing that I'm really glad though, one thing
Yeah.
that I'm really 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 thankful for is Americans are actually banned from
Oh,
going to North Korea. So yeah, this is not for
wait, but what about auto?
it was because of auto.
Oh, they're now banned. Oh, since then it was banned.
It's not
Oh,
North Korea that banned Americans. It's the
I see. The
America
American.
that
Okay,
banned North
I see. I see. I see. I
Koreans
see.
from going to, yeah, no, America that banned Americans from going to North Korea.
I see. That's right. I do remember the State Department saying to somebody who was going to go to North Korea and give like a talk on crypto or
Oh
something
yeah,
to
it's
not to do it.
Virgil
Yeah,
Griffith.
yeah,
Yeah,
Virgil Griffith. Yeah,
no,
we talked about him.
that
Yeah,
was before.
that was right. Of
Yeah,
course, that was before auto
that was
incident. Yeah,
auto. Yeah,
tragic.
but yeah, yeah. And I really wanted to talk about the cryptos and the kind of like North Korean hacking, almost like technology that North Korea uses.
Well, sounds like a great topic for the episode.
Yeah, yeah, for the next episode. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. I think we are at time. So I will see you guys at the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.